welcome this morning. It's good to be back with you. Yes, missed you last week. Thank you so much. I want to thank Reverend Connie Baldwin for stepping in Sunday morning and doing a wonderful job. I want to thank Mark for stepping in on Wednesday and doing the Wednesday class. So it's wonderful to have people that we can count on to step up. I was not here last Sunday, which was Mother's Day. And not only would I have recognized my wonderful natural mother, but also I would have recognized the spiritual mother of HeartLight, which is Alma Todd. So if she's watching today, she moved to New York, but she still remains, and I told her, you'll always remain the spiritual mother of this church. She's been here probably longest of anybody in this particular location through the many incarnations of the different ministries that has been through here. So Mother Alma, if you are watching, we want to wish you a belated Mother's Day. And I also want to say that our sister and friend Sandra Brumet is in Africa, and I know she's having some wonderful experiences in her home country. I told her, I said, the minute your feet hit the ground, I know you're going to have some ancestral stuff that's going to come up, and you're going to have some experiences to share with us when you get back from your trip to Africa. Also, I feel that I want to mention Grethel Brown, who I want her to know she watches faithfully. We have not forgotten you at all. We love you, we miss you, and we send love to you. And also to all of those who join us through streaming. Many times we have as many streaming as we do sitting in these seats from all over the country. And many of those people support HeartLight and have even become members in Ohio and different states. So we want to appreciate them and feel gratitude in our hearts for those who are joining us at that time. Good to see William. I've been missing William. All right. One thing about HeartLight, for you that are kind of new, we do not ask you to come here for the purpose of disempowering you, but to empower you. And that's why we don't necessarily believe in binding people to a creed or binding people to a belief system of some kind. Because we believe that we are here to join yourself, not to bind yourself. Does that make sense to you? Some people are bound to their churches. They're bound to what the dogma is and the doctrine. But here you come on your own power and your own choice, and you join this community as you choose to do so. So this is a place to be free, to explore, to learn, and to really find out the depths of who you really basically are. All right, a little different subject today. In a way, it's not, but it is. I always weave these things in, but today I wanted to zero in a little bit on this, and I've never done it, so just bear with me. But it has to do with who is talking, and the fact of how that we can be more observant and mindful of two aspects of self: the observing self and the thinking self. And that's what I want to talk about today. Did anyone ever chide you for not listening? And you reply, sorry, I was somewhere else. Where were you? And how did you get back? We've all experienced that, right? I mean, someone's talking and all of a sudden you go somewhere else and you're not listening to them. So let's talk about the thinking and the observing self. The self, that is the part of you that thinks, is the part of you that judges, compares, images, visualizes, analyzes, remembers, and is a place of great fantasy. It is the more common of the mind. It is mostly where we live throughout the day, is in the thinking mind. Popular psychological approach such as positive thinking, cognitive therapy, creative visualization, hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming focus on controlling the way you think, the self, the thinking self. Now, I can't speak for all of you, but I imagine a lot of you share in the past paths of trying to do our best to control such things as stay in a state of happiness, or in a state of peace, or in a state of joy. And it's not easy, is it? It's not easy. And I'm going to show you why. We've not made it easy for us to say, because these are truly not states that we have to learn. They are states that we have to remember in the sense of who our true nature is. Sometimes it's not in what you have, but it is in who you are that is your greatest power. When it comes to the teacher, Yeshua, Jesus, the thing that I think is missing in the Christian church and in the Christian world is they worship him so much that they don't hear his teaching. That's why they called him Rabboni, rabbi, teacher. And the thing about Jesus was that he showed us that it's not what you have, but it's who you are that is your power. So he never said anywhere, follow me, I have the truth, and I'm going to build a great religion called Christianity. Nowhere. He just came to teach what is referred to in the metaphor of the Bible as God's kingdom on earth. God's kingdom means a domain of consciousness. What is in that domain of consciousness? Peace and joy and righteousness in the Holy Spirit. It's not meat or drink. It's not things that'll make you happy, but it's the things that the eye cannot see that will make you happy. We are who we are by divine creation and divine inheritance. So I'm definitely one of the product of many decades of trying to attain this place, of finding this place of peace and joy and oneness. And yes, I have experienced it once in a while. Maybe it's due to my environment, the difference in the environment that I'm in. Sometimes you're in a better place, you're in a better environment, you're around better people, you're around a better situation that makes it easier for you to become and be happy. But it's conditional. It's based upon certain things happening a way that we perceive them, that they should happen to them. And then when it doesn't, it's gone. So even though these things have their place, and I'm not saying they're not at all important, because I've done the positive thinking. Most of us probably cut our metaphysical teeth on positive thinking teachings. I'm sure we have. I'm sure that's one of the first areas that we come into, is to think more positively. And like me, for many of you for many years and decades have tried to attain all of these different techniques and teachings and read books and been to workshops to try to attain how to be a more positive person. Now, being positive is a wonderful thing. I'd rather be around a positive person than a negative person. I'd rather feel positive. But sometimes those two are not necessarily to do with spiritual. Don't confuse it with being spiritual. Because being spiritual doesn't always mean that it is either this or that it has nothing to do with particular states of feeling or emotion. So what Jesus finally gave us that is so powerful according to Scripture is that he said, I am the truth. He didn't say I have it. I am the truth. Truth was his identity. The observing self is fundamentally different from the thinking self. The observing self is aware but does not think. The observing self is aware but does not think. It is a part of you that is responsible for focus, attention, and awareness. While it can observe or pay attention to thought, it cannot produce them. Do you get that? Even though it can observe thought, it cannot produce them. Whereas the thinking self thinks about your experience, the observing self registers your experience directly. It's not through a thought. It is the experience. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. The one that I chose is someone playing tennis. Now, I'm not a tennis player, but I'm going to focus in on this idea of playing tennis. And you are truly focused on all of your attention is on the ball coming toward you. This is your observing self at work. You are thinking about the ball. You're observing it. Then all of a sudden, thoughts start popping up in your head. I hope my grip is correct. I'd better make this a good hit. Or wow, that ball is moving really fast. This is your thinking self. Before you thought those thoughts, you were just observing the ball. That's all you could. That's all your attention was on is the ball, because the ball is going to determine the game that you're playing. You're not thinking about the ball at this moment. You're not analyzing the ball. You're not even saying it's a ball. You're just observing the ball. And then the thoughts come in. This is your thinking self at work. Of course, these thoughts become distracting to the focus of the observing self. Now the observing self starts observing the thought and not the ball. Are you kind of getting where I'm going? All of a sudden, up until then, it was about the ball, focusing on the ball, not analyzing the ball, but focusing upon it. But when you started thinking about the ball, you became distracted by the thoughts. And you were not purely focused on the ball, and then your performance was impaired. And often you have been focused on a task only to be distracted by a thought such as, I hope I don't screw this up. Now, this is a simple thing this morning, but it's some of those things that we're not mindful of that goes on every day. Another one that I picked was the observing of a beautiful sunset. I remember for me observing the sunset, where was I? In South Florida, down in the Keys. Beautiful sunsets. In fact, they celebrate them every sunset. They have a tea. And it's a whole celebration that goes on in sunset. And I was just sitting there on a bench observing the sunset. I was quiet. I wasn't thinking this is a sunset. I was just enjoying observing the sunset. And then the thinking kicks in. Wow, look at those colors. You know, this sunset is so beautiful, but it reminds me of a sunset I experienced on my vacation a year ago in Colorado. I wish I had brought my camera. The more attention your observing self pays attention to the running commentary of the thinking self, the more you lose direct contact with the sunset as it happens. Now, another reason I'm doing this is because we do a lot of visualization, meditation, many types of those things here, not any one particular. There's many ways to meditate and do visualizations and whatever. But a lot of you And maybe some of you don't come over here at 10:30 because you're just not a meditator. You just can't be still. You can't be quiet. But I'm showing you what you think you aren't, you already are. You're always, a part of you is the observer of your life. But often it's thinking that gets in the way. As a result, there is not even a word in the English for such a thing other than maybe mind. And I've taught you here that there is a confusion, I believe, in the use of mind and brain. We still, and most people, I'll say almost 100%, when I've ever asked them to point to their mind, will do this. Because we've been taught that the brain is the totality of the mind. It is not. And until you have the experience, and it is an experience, of when the mind outgrows the brain. And I've shared with you some of my experiences that have been experiences that were landmarks. They were ways of changing my direction because of the experiences that I've had from the mind rather than my brain. The mind comes from words that are interesting. They come from such words as words for spirit. They come from words in the Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic, if you study them, that have to do with more than just the mechanism of the brain. The brain is more like a computer. All it does is download data. And you've been downloading data from the time that you had developed a brain. Even in your mother's womb, you started downloading data. You started downloading your environment. The environment of your mother, because that's the environment in which you are formed in. So what the mother is basically going through and feeling is being transferred to an aspect of your genetic code, DNA, which has been discovered not many years ago as the epigenetics. This has changed the whole idea of DNA, and so when they found that above your regular DNA, there is an aspect of DNA that is more etheric. You understand? Epi means above in Greek. Above. Epinosis means knowledge above knowledge. Epigenetics means there is an aspect of genetics that is above the chemical aspect of our DNA, of the letters of DNA and RNA. That's changed everything. And what has changed mostly, up until we did not discover epigenetics, we saw our DNA as more written in stone. It was called determinism. Your DNA is determined by the 23 chromosomes of your mother, 23 of your dad, and nothing can be done about that. That's just who you are and who you're always going to be. And great hope was given to us when we understood that it's all not just by nature, but by nurture. The environments we choose to be in, the environments we choose to form our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, all of these things are being written energetically and etherically in the epigenetics of our genes. And when we become attached to that, that story can be very different than the story you inherited, because this is your story. You don't have to live out their story. And I'm not saying you didn't get some good stuff from your mom and your mom's side and your dad's side, and probably you got some not so good stuff from your mom and your dad's side, because it's a mixed bag. The wheats and the tares grew up together there. Some of you got some really strong, good parts of your nature. Some of you got some real weaknesses I just recently had my DNA read and analyzed by our dear new physician here that is working with many of us, Catherine. And absolutely, she found what I've inherited that's more weak toward certain things and diseases and whatever is in my DNA. So I didn't inherit the best story. Some of you got stronger genes than some. You're stronger. You're probably less apt to get sick or to get something because we all have inherited this ancestral story. But you see, it's not about their story. It's about my story. And it's not about his story, history, his story, or her story, but it's about my story. It's about the mystery of my story. And when this mystery is finished, time shall be no more, and nothing shall be delayed. That is our birthright. It will come naturally and freely, and you'll have to stop working so hard to get it and say, yes, yes, yes. Ooh, how about that? Can you imagine it being that simple? To be in a state of receptivity, a frequency of so much ability to receive our divine inheritance. All we have to do is say yes. Yes. There is a more excellent way. So the mind can mean many things. It also comes from the Greek word psyche, which we get the word psychology, sociology, and it has to do with cognitive work. Now, I've done all these things. You know, I've tried it all, and you all know I do. If I'm usually not here, it's because I'm trying something. I'm sure you know that. Oh, what's he doing this time? But I want to do that. I want to experience all these things. Whether they work or don't work, I want the experience of them. I don't want to just take it because somebody said, don't do that because that doesn't work. I'll make up my mind myself, William. Huh? I don't need somebody to tell me. I'll let you know. So be careful about that, about giving opinions to people and taking away their experience for themselves. So it's very important. So I've tried a lot of these things. I've gone through low times and better times, just like anybody else. You know, people see us up here like we are the man of God. 24 hours, 7 days a week. No, we have valleys, we have times of depression, we have times of doubt, we have times of fear, we have times just like everybody else. We're just going through the human story just like the rest of you. So sometimes we allow ourselves to get knocked out consciously. When we get knocked out consciously because of an emotion of fear, oh my God. Now this happened kind of recently. I had some issues with digestion and this stuff. I just tell it all here, so you know, I don't. So I'm having issues, you know, those kind of issues, and it was very scary. And I thought, and my thinking. See, I was doing fine, till my thinking mind says, you know, your family, most of them probably had stomach cancer. And I do think that. My mother was a baby of 9 that died of cancers in their 40s and 50s. And back then we didn't know what was what, but I know it had to do either with cervical or stomach, but it had to do with that area. So my thinking, because I was kind of doing okay with it, like, okay, we'll take care of this, and I'll put a little bit more fiber, whatever I need to do. But it wasn't working. And the more I thought, and the more fear set in, and the more reactive that I got, I became less proactive. So I run to this doctor, and I ran to that doctor. Thank God for Medicare. I want to testify right now for Medicare. And they better not mess with my Medicare. Don't you mess with my Medicare. Everybody should have access to health in this country, and that's my last political statement. All right. Now, what was I saying? So I'm running to all these gastroenterologists or whatever they are all over the place. They're not really telling me a whole lot of what I wanted to hear. And finally, it came to a place where somebody said, well, why don't we just do some kind of a CAT scan or something to see what's going on? And I said, well, I'd really like to know what's going on. Well, the truth was, not much was going on. I did not have a cancer and a tumor growing in me like my thinking self was saying, but I lost the observer. I wanted to control a situation, and that is always the tool of ego mind, is control and fear and reaching back into a memory of some kind that supports the fear. I have to say that there are times when Tim and I and myself individually do more meditation. I do. I really believe so much in that being still and quiet stage. I believe it's the most important thing. And I still say to you, I'm going to say to you that come, not to you that don't, but to you that come at 10:30 for the meditation, thank you, because the Sunday service starts there. It starts in the zero before it becomes the one. Everything comes from the zero, the place of all things, the place of the silence. So when you come in, we have already begun to connect to the field. That's what the zero is. It is the field of all possibility. So instead of coming in and start talking, because that's the first thing you're going to do if I'd let you come in at 10:30, you're going to start with each other. And that's okay. I know you like each other, you want to visit with each other, and some of you don't see anybody all week or whatever, and that's fine. We want you to have that time of fellowship. But that's not the place to start. The place to start is to get ourselves centered and get ourselves quiet and enter into the silence as much as we can. Well, but some of you are saying, I just can't. I just can't get there. Now that's your thinking self. Your thinking self makes you think you can't get there. And I'm here to tell you, you're already there all the time. All the time. So let's just do something real quick. Close your eyes. This is just a few seconds. Just close your eyes. And you that are visual, I assume most of us are visual here. So you can close your mind and you can produce the image of the most perfect red apple that you can imagine. A perfect red apple in your mind's eye. Are you able to do that? Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Who is looking at that apple? Who is looking at the apple? You're looking at the apple. Who is you looking at the apple? You can open your eyes. Simple. But if you can see it in your mind, you're observing it in your mind. Although we all understand such words as awareness, focus, and attention, most of us have little or no concept of observer. Another illustration I want to give you. Remember when we used to go to movie theaters? Some of you may still, but I don't know, I haven't been since COVID. Don't have any desire to actually go to a movie theater. I used to love it. I mean, that was my thing. Every weekend when I was out traveling, it was going to a movie on Saturday night. Just loved going to movies. I have no desire to do that anymore because I don't have to. I have Netflix and Hulu and whatever I want. I don't have to go anywhere. The movie has come to me. I don't have to go to it, but I used to love to go. So you're in a movie theater. I want you to imagine being in a movie theater, and you're really caught up into the story on the screen. And it's a horror movie. Violent, scary, gory, yeah. And you are into it. In fact, you're so into it that you lose yourself into what's on the screen. You've done that. Yeah. Now, the body being so neutral doesn't care whether it's really happening or not happening, but if you are connecting to it happening, it believes it is happening, and therefore the heart rate changes, blood pressure changes, hands maybe get sweaty. You start wanting to cover your eyes. You start all these physiological responses based upon what it seems to be. You're into the movie. You are feeling the movie. Like those are real people up there, and they are really getting cut in two and slaughtered. You're caught into the story. But finally, the story is over, and it says, the end. And you go, oh, I was sitting here all along, just observing this movie, but I lost my observation of what was really happening into what seemed to be happening, that it affected me so much that it was like it was happening. And it was all along images and illusions that were passing through my thinking mind. Observing, something that we all need to work on much more than we do. Another way of putting this is that the thinking self produced some thoughts, and your observing self observed them. In other words, I experienced the sunset until I started thinking about the sunset. And I wasn't experiencing it, I was thinking about it. And I've tried to teach this for years, and I've seen people's eyes roll around their head every time that I start talking about the difference between human thought and divine thought. The way you think in your brain as a human being is a very chemical experience. It's all about chemicals, and it's all about how that certain data emerges itself into certain patterns of perceptions and beliefs that are then stored in the neurons of the brain. So it's like we are chemically, electrically wired in our brain. The brain can only do one basic thing, and that is to start a memory account. So everything that you have taken in through the brain has ended up as a memory stored in the brain. Okay? And you have, oh my goodness, I forget what the number is that I read, how many pieces of data in a lifetime that you go through is hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pieces of data that run through, whether you're aware of it or not, all the time. And it's all stored in the memory of the brain. Now, when something happens out here, a situation that is similar to that memory, and there is what we call a vibrational or frequency connection between this event and the memory of an event similar to that. Because you see, you kind of repeat a lot of things. If you're a person that was molested, when you have to deal with molestation of anybody or see it on television or hear about it, you've got something in the memory bank that can match that frequency. And when it does, it's called a brain cell neuronal firing. It fires out a brain cell, and you kind of chemically relive that. And you see, the thing is, people have been doing this without being conscious of it so long that they have stored up so much in their memory accounts that it has finally patterned itself as suppressed emotional issues. And therefore, they become a part of our subconscious part of ourselves. Do you know that during a day you only live about 5% consciousness, if that? If you're lucky, you're 5% conscious of what you're doing. Most of the time you're on automatic. You get in your car, you turn on the key, you don't even think about that because you have done that so much and you have developed that it's so strong in your memory that you don't have to think every minute about driving down 77. And that's why there's a lot of wrecks, because people are not observing anything that they're doing. They're just automatically driving and not observing what's around them. Be observant about your environment. It's very important to observe what is going on basically around you. So what I'm trying to give you today, I'm trying to give you something that you can take from here, that you can practice this presence, and that is learning more to be the observer. So how do you do that basically? Here's how I would suggest. You have something come up, catches you off guard, something bad happens to someone you love, or some news comes to you, and it causes a fear, an insecurity, an anxiety in you. I want you to make that, whatever it is, like you did the apple, and I want you to bring the idea of the thought of anxiety into the focus. Don't deny it. The worst thing you can do is deny this stuff. The people that are teaching denial is doing you more harm than people that are not, what you need to be taught is how to raise your consciousness to a level to be the observer enough to see things as they truly are, and the truth of it will set you free from the emotion and the illusion of it.
That is true.
You can't keep suppressing. Well, I'm a positive thinker. I'm just not going to think that way. Well, then just suppress it and keep suppressing it until it shows up in your etheric blueprint and the cell starts reading it, and you'll have a disease and illness and sickness and all kinds of things show up because you didn't take care of it.
Right.
Heal thyself, O physician. Healing is a self-responsible thing. It's not going to a healer or somebody that is gifted to fix you. It's about finding your own healer inside yourself. You are the healer of you. Thank you. The thinking self can be like a radio. Now, I tend to have music going on behind me when I'm in the kitchen, or the TV will be playing or something. Most of us tend to do that because we don't want to feel alone, so we turn on things and whatever. And you might tune in to a song that you really like, and then songs come on you don't like, and the ones you don't like you don't even hear anymore because you change your focus to the song, to whatever you're doing, and the next thing you know, I didn't even hear that song because I didn't like that song, therefore I didn't bring it into my conscious thinking situation. Well, the radio is like what is going on all the time. It's playing. It's playing all the time. But if you can practice how to let it play. See, you that feel like you're failing at meditation to get to that silent place, you're trying to make something silent that will never get silent. The ego wants you to do that. I call it shadow boxing. Keep dealing with things that you'll never attain it, because in spiritual law, divine law, everything has already been attained to. It's finished. It's done. You don't have to do it through mental calisthenics. You don't have to do it through mental work and control. Instead of working on doing that, work on undoing that so you get back to your true mind, which is the mind of God in you, as you. So what I'm trying to get to is that the brain is able to chemically, electrically think about things, but it can't be the things it thinks about. I've been saying this for 20 years. The brain can think about something, but it can't be the thing it's thinking about. So here's my illustration. I could spend a lot of brain power, which I do some weeks. I do a lot of time reading, studying. I read something and it catches my attention. I go down that and I start reading and I just wear my brain out real quick sometimes when I do that. And I spend all this time, in the mental field. So let's say I'm going to announce that next Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do a workshop on love. What is love? What is love? What really is love? So I'm going to spend next week studying love mentally. I'm going to break it down. I know that mentally there's about 7 different Greek words translated love in the Bible. There's agape, there's phileo, there's all kinds of words. It's the way you love your mother, the way you love your dog, the way you love your lover, are all different shades of love. We don't love in the same way on a human level. So let's say I really come up with this really pretty good teaching on love. And we go, that was really good teaching. Thank you, David, for that. I learned so much about love. I didn't know those words. I didn't know the difference in how love works and manifests. It was a very good workshop. And you mentally leave with better information about a subject than you had. Then you go down here to Red Robin or some restaurant for lunch, and you have a waiter or waitress that's really having a bad day, is new. Now you just left this wonderful workshop about something like Course in Miracles. For teach love, for that is what you are. You're only love. Fear is an illusion. All there is love. And you're going, yeah. Oh, I really like that. That really sounds good to me. I am love. I am love. I am love. So you go down there and you have lunch, and this waitress, a bad day, spills the water on you first thing. Everything is going wrong. And this next thing you know, you're reacting because you're thinking, what's going on here? How dare them spill water on me? Don't you know what you're doing? This is your job. It's the same thing of stop watching the ball in the tennis coming at you. And start thinking about, oh my God, is it going to hurt me when it gets here? Am I going to miss it? So what I'm saying to you, you can learn and learn and learn mentally about something intellectually in the brain and still have no experience of it. And I'm telling you, Christ consciousness, that we call it, is built upon the rock and foundation of experience, not knowledge. Not knowledge. Am I saying knowledge is bad? No, I love it. But I put it in its place and realize that I'm just bringing in more mental data and information in my memory. So let me do an exercise with you that I do. I've done this, it's been a while, a few years. So I want everybody to take your right hand, put it on your right ear. Now if you look around, everybody's doing the same thing. Now the reason you did the same thing is because in your brain memory, you knew what I meant when I said hand. You knew what I meant when I had right hand. And you knew ear. So that was easy for you to go back into your brain and say, okay, he's saying right hand, put it on your ear, and you was able to think it through what to do chemically. Okay? Left ear. Same thing. Everybody gets it because you've heard of this before. It's in your memory. Okay? Everybody put your hand on your gizzard. Chickens have gizzards. Humans have gizzards. So I don't see anybody. Everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that, and everybody went. because you had no memory or chemical to fire. Unless you've already learned about this and studied it and found your gizzard, if you have one. You didn't know. You was blank. And that's what's happened in the world of our experience. Is, let me tell you, a new thought, and many of you that I know here, we've been around the block a few times. Come on, isn't that right, Kathy? Yeah, we've been to the workshops, we've read the books, you've sat under wonderful teachers and ministers, you've been exposed to so much information and knowledge that is not being experienced. Let's be honest about it. It's just not being experienced. Now, when you come here and get together with like-minded people, it becomes a little more easy to act it out more. But when you go home to some of your family and friends who think you're nuts and think you're in the occult and drinking the blood of chickens or whatever they think you're doing down here. Yeah. Whatever they think we do that is so crazy and out of the way, you can tend to forget in that moment who you truly are. Now, so the thought of love can be a thought about love, but not be the love that the thought is. So let's go the other way. God is love. Whatever your term, God is. God is love. Spirit is love. Truth is love. Is love. Are you with me? Is love. Wonder if what is love, not the thought, but is love, like the sunset without the thought of the colors, is love. And love impregnates itself to extend itself as a thought. Then love as a thought extends itself in manifestation. This is why I'm sitting here and say, oh, well, what the world needs is love. We'll never have it until love itself becomes divine thought, divine principle, divine law, extended into the collective consciousness of the planet. Yeah. So I wish love was the word agape, which is the highest form of a word for love in Greek. I wish I could just say agape and magical things would happen, but trust me, it won't, because it still remains a mental construct in my mind that I choose to make a belief system out of it. I want you here at HeartLight to experience more. Yes, with me you will learn a lot. My goodness, I'm still looking at all this stuff Connie has done. My teachings for the last couple of years, hundreds and hundreds of pages she has scribed of those Wednesday teachings. And I go, look, it wears me out to think all of these are words I spoke. In 1 hour, I can't believe how many pages of words there are that are spoken in 1 hour. So it's not that we have any lack of understanding and knowledge around here. It's a constant flow. But I'm afraid I'm concerned about our experience debit. That we're not up on experience the way. And this is what the world is looking at. I'm going to close here. But I want you to know the world is not looking for another church, another religion. They're looking for manifestation of divine manifesting itself, not in a dogma, not in a belief system, not in a philosophy, but in the essence. I'm going to call it a vibration. Love becomes a vibration that vibrates and vibrates itself. And the thing is, you can make the difference. I got to say this before I quit. You have got to make the difference. And you say, but who am I to make? I'm just me, little old me, individual me. But think of yourself as the pebble dropped into the still waters of the pond that brings rings that are hundreds of times larger than the pebble itself. What you emanate and radiate out from you into the collective pool of consciousness will radiate out into the collective to make a difference far beyond yourself. So simple. You're either in the observing or the thinking self. If you're in the thinking self, be careful how you observe what you're thinking. Observe your life. Detach. You know, Buddha kind of had it there. That's one thing in Buddhism I love is about undo, and detach, and detach. It's not about do more, do more, do more. It's about the art of letting go. Letting go. Let me say it this way to you Christian folks have come that way. Learn to be in the world of thought, but not of the world of thought. Let us pray. Holy Spirit, we always recognize you as the true teacher within us. I am not. I am just your facilitator, trying my best to bring the language of spirit into a language that the people can understand. And where I fail, you cover. Where I lack, you give. So as we each take this message today from Spirit, we ask that it becomes our experience, an experience for ourselves, and not just left into the mind as a mental construct, but is allowed to become the experience that when we leave here today and go to the restaurant or where we go and they spill the water on us, that we are not moved to think, but to observe. Maybe this way. This waitress is having a rough day. I don't know what she's experiencing, but I choose not to experience a judgment from my thinking mind about her or him. I choose to only stay neutral and observe that things are what they are, and none of it is life-changing because they spilled a little water on my shirt or my dress or my pants or whatever. It's not the end of the world. It's not worth getting angry and causing your blood pressure to rise and your sugar to rise and losing the sense of true self. It's not worth it. Stay in the observer position. Those thoughts are going to come. Let them come and observe them. But know who you are. Know who you are. And we all say, Amen. A woman, a child, a plant, a whatever it is that you need to connect with today. Thank you so much.